Hey, you're listening to the Reasons Podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
What's up, people, and welcome back to the Reasons Podcast. This is episode 9. Relu again, your host. And as I said in the last episode, I'm getting ahead because this is only 1 week actually after the last episode. But I'm getting ahead because, as I said, I had something special for you guys. So not really much has gone on in my life, but I do have a special guest, and that's my boy Nathaniel Massiah. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me on, bro. Yeah, guys, my name's Nathaniel Massiah. Me and Relu have actually been friends, I want to say since 2017. So what's that, over 7 years now.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I
maybe like
first met you
2016,
in,
17.
yeah, I first met you in 2016, but we
Yeah,
became
yeah,
friends, I'd say, in 2017. And
yeah,
yeah, for those of the people on here that don't know me, I am mainly in the fitness industry. Have been since around 2019. Um, I worked with brands like Gymshark, My Protein. Historically, I've mainly been YouTube based, but recently I've been more focused on like more the short form types of content. I'm also a powerlifter. Recently won World Junior Championships
yes,
in the
sir,
93
yes,
kilo weight
sir.
class. Yeah, man. And it was a big goal of mine in doing that to get the deadlift world record, which I've also managed to do this year. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy year in all honesty, and it's been a long journey to get here, which I think we're going to touch on in this podcast. But yeah, it's cool doing this like with you because you've been there through all the periods that have actually led up
Yeah,
to it. Because usually when I maybe do a podcast like this, I do it with someone that doesn't know my story, so then they don't
hmm,
really have an insight into that. Whereas like all the angles. Like if people actually have been following my channel, they would have actually seen you on my channel from
yeah. The
2019.
one
Do you know what I'm
video
saying?
he
So
made.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
So
was a good
yeah,
video
man.
though. We did a little mukbang with
Yeah, bro. With
for
Luke.
those of you listening, with Luke, who I did. I don't know what episode it was. Maybe episode 4. The one
Yeah.
called Going All In. Yeah, me, Nathaniel, and Luke have been friends basically since all the way back then, and like we grew up together and whatnot. So yeah, if any of you had been watching Nathaniel's YouTube channel, you've probably seen me on there before, seen Luke as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, or like Nathaniel was saying, it's very, for me, it's such a nice thing to have you on here, and like with the other 2 people I've had on, it's so nice because you guys are embarking on like creative things. In Luke's sense, the fashion stuff with my friend Jamie, he's doing music, and with you, the YouTube and the I guess professional sport. I guess that's what winning junior world championships is like professional sport really. And it's so nice for me because I've seen the growth and I've seen the journey. And yeah, like you said, if you go on a podcast, lots of podcasts would love to have you on, but the questions they might ask you, the people listening might not get a great insight into who you are because
Mm.
they don't know what questions to ask because they don't really know the backstory. They don't really know
Yeah.
exactly like where you've come from. And I guess
Yeah.
it's also really good for me because having people like you on here is good for this podcast, but at the same time, it's good for
Yeah.
you. And it was like Luke said
Mm.
the same thing, that you actually get to talk about things that your viewers might not know
Yeah.
or they might want to know, and it's more comfortable obviously because it's your friend asking you the
Yeah.
question.
Exactly. And also, there was this thing with Elon Musk. I remember him saying one thing. I think with this something to do with SpaceX. Some reporter or something like asked him a question about it, and it was in him giving the answer. He like discovered actually like a problem with it, but actually just through like answering it out loud. So a lot of times when you actually explain something out loud, it actually you can actually make more sense of it in your head and actually maybe hear things that you didn't previously know just because you're actually talking about it and like going through those thoughts. So that's another like value of podcasts that I see personally.
Yeah, for real. Because I mean, I think I might have even spoke about this in the first episode when I was giving the reasons behind the Reasons podcast. But
Yeah,
for me, speaking out loud, like a lot of the times I come on here and I have a topic, but that segues into lots of different things. And for me, it's just being able to get my thoughts into like being able to understand my thoughts and just speaking them, like you said, out loud allows you to get a greater hold of the things you're thinking about. And I guess in your case,
Yeah,
for your viewers, they get a better understanding of who you are, or like the things that you've been through on your journey to where you are now, you know.
yeah, 100%. And I've always been about that as well. Like, like with my YouTube, I would do obviously fitness videos and stuff, but I would also just do a video sitting down, just talking, which I
Yeah.
think was like a advantage that I had because I think there's almost nothing harder than getting people interested in you just talking, like not doing anything
Yeah.
else. No like Subway surfers playing underneath you, like literally just listening
Just you
to you
talking.
talking. I think is a really hard thing because realistically, like everybody's got opinions, and the fact that people, want to listen to you for your insight is like a big thing. So I haven't like taken that aspect for granted, and if you can cultivate that, then I think you can build an audience that is not just interested in you for things that maybe like transient or like
Hmm.
temporary, but actually, like you for you. So that's
Yeah.
always been a big thing
I
on
think
my journey.
that's like, especially when you started doing the YouTube, because I remember before I started doing my YouTube, I remember speaking to you about it, like, hey, Nathaniel, I've got this idea of like
Yeah,
what I'm going to do. And the first few videos I made were just literally sitting down and just talking, basically like a podcast, but I guess maybe a bit shorter, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes instead.
yeah,
And I realized that it's very difficult, especially when you're starting from nothing, right? Like in my situation, or I guess even in yours, right? When you're starting from nothing
yeah,
and you're not talking about things that are trendy, you're not talking about things that have piqued people's interest just because of the topic, it's very difficult to get people to just be interested in you. And I
yeah. I
think,
mean, I didn't even start with that. To be fair, I started on topics.
yeah.
So starting straight from just like talking is definitely a hard thing to do. But I definitely think that if continued, it can 100% be like worthwhile. And yeah, and it's also what you bring to the table as well. Like you've always been a person that has something to say and actually put their thoughts across in like uh a way that people can understand
Hmm.
from that even that conversation that we've had and stuff. So I think this is an angle that can definitely that you could like definitely be successful in.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, for me, with starting the podcast and starting the YouTube and doing things like this, and even I guess I can give a little like insight to what's kind of going on in the week since I made my last episode. I got in touch with this magazine, like this sport magazine here at the uni, because I wanted to start getting into writing because I love writing. I guess with my course, sorry, I write a lot of essays where I just write a lot. And I was like, I want to get a way or find a way to make that a thing, or to be able to put that out there instead of it just being, little drafts I write on my laptop. And when I started the podcast and when I started the YouTube, it was just because I found it really fun and it was just something that I wanted to do. I felt like I have a lot to say, like you said, and I can also help people understand things by speaking them, or maybe they can relate to it and whatnot. And I realized that by cultivating an audience that's interested in me and what I say, I can actually do something with this podcast. I can do something with my YouTube, which is
100%.
like permanent. If I have a take on something on any topic because people are interested in what I have to say, there's something that I can do with it. And I feel like it would be a waste. Although I didn't start this thinking, oh, this is what I want to do with my life, it would be a waste to not even try, or to not, you know, give it a go,
Yeah,
because it's definitely, like you said, something that can be successful.
yeah, 100%. And I mean, right now, that's kind of like what YouTube is turning into, and that's even something that we can touch on, like for myself, where it's like a lot of the videos that I used to make on YouTube, and I now feel serve a better purpose on short form platforms. A lot of the maybe like the how to videos,
Mm,
like gym tips and etc. Obviously, when I started YouTube, TikTok wasn't a thing, and Instagram was pretty much mainly just a photo app.
mm.
And then obviously with the like the explosion of TikTok and then Instagram shifting to a now short form video app
Reels and
where
whatnot.
Reels being like the
Yeah.
main thing that they've been pushing, um, that's like changed the landscape of it. So it's actually had to make me, and we can touch on this, it's actually made me kind of reconsider what I want to do with my YouTube because um, the number one thing you don't want to do is kind of be like archaic and like stick to just what you've always done and not like adapt with the times. However, the one thing that does still seem to be not going anywhere with YouTube is long form talking.
Yeah.
If anything, podcasts, the expansion of like podcasts and people, sharing their thoughts is what people want to see on YouTube.
Hmm.
So I definitely think if someone is gonna start a YouTube now, to do like doing it around something like that is probably the best way to go about it now. If you're trying to do something else, um, I think it might even be best on other short form platforms. And you see that a lot with like say in the fitness industry, most of the new people who are coming up are doing it
On
on
TikTok,
TikTok,
Reels.
Instagram, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
etc. Exactly. Whereas back in the day, it was slightly more. There was a much more heavy like YouTube
Yeah.
focus.
And I appreciate that
Um,
you said
so
that,
yeah,
because a big thing that I wanted to do with this podcast, like it's actually perfect that you said that, actually, because I didn't even have to like get it out of you by asking any kinds of questions, right? A lot of the things that
yeah,
I wanted to do with this podcast initially was get people to start doing things that they want to do. And you giving that advice, say,
yeah,
hey, look, like if that's the kind of, like, if you want to do something with YouTube and you have an idea and you like long form talking, then there's room for you, and there's always room for you on YouTube. Like,
yeah,
that kind of stuff
100%.
is because lots of people are curious about lots of things. They want answers to things. So if you have a topic and you
Yeah,
like speaking, you've got lots to say, there is somebody, there are like loads of people in the world, at least one, that wants to know the answer, wants to know like what you think. And I think so long as there's somebody that wants to
100%.
know what you think about something, you should put it out there. I feel like,
Yeah, 100%. And it's like I remember like for example Jordan Peterson talking about like why people would like podcasts and listen to people. It's like one of the reasons that like listening to information, a lot more people can more easily digest information than say, for example,
it's
even
true.
reading. So I think maybe with the expansion of podcasts and stuff, it's not in a way replaced reading, but it's just another way to take an information that is more accessible for
Yeah.
more people. More people could listen to an idea than they can read an idea and actually understand it. So obviously, if more people can do something, then that thing is gonna grow. Um, and yeah, and it's also about like when I was comparing like the different social media platforms, like there are some things that can be answered in say a minute, which is what like you might do on
Hmm.
Instagram or TikTok and etc. But there are other things that take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to kind of unpack and go through. And that's where the value of YouTube is. And I've been having conversations with people recently about like what I want to do with my YouTube because I feel like I'm in a transitional period. Like for example, YouTube is still my biggest platform. I've got like over 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, but I
Mm,
also just hit 200,000 followers on Instagram. And my Instagram over the last like I'd say year and a half has been like pretty much my biggest platform.
for real.
So I've been in a kind of transitional period, kind of thinking, okay, what do I do with this? Because I have this platform now. It'd be a waste to do nothing with it. However, as I explained, like I feel like the game has kind of changed, and I don't want to get left behind in that regard.
Mm,
And I've already taken steps to do that. Like by like growing my Instagram, that's like the main thing there because I never used to have like that many followers. My YouTube was always like
it was always the
way
thing.
bigger than my
Yeah.
Instagram for a while. Yeah, it was always like my main social media. Instagram was a bit more of an afterthought, but now it's actually starting for me to flip. But I'm just constantly still trying to figure out what I can do with my YouTube. And in all honesty, maybe even things like this, just talking about it, saying things out loud, probably going to help me figure it out.
Oh, for real. And
Um,
I've
but yeah, it's always an interesting
on
one.
that topic, like, because obviously a lot of people know you, and let's say like I'd be going to London and people are like, oh, like, especially my friends in Norwich when I would first go back, and they'd be like, oh, well, what are you gonna do when you go to
Yeah,
London? I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go see my boy Nathaniel. They'd be like, oh, do you know him from YouTube, right? Because that's where people would know you, right? If
yeah,
I ever spoke about you,
yeah,
or if someone said, oh, do you know this person? Like Nathaniel and YouTube was like a thing, right? It was, if they know Nathaniel, they're
yeah.
known for YouTube. Whereas nowadays, if it comes up, right,
Switching.
I'm like, how do I even introduce this kind of thing? Like especially when I spoke to people
Yeah,
about the podcast, they were like, "Oh, what kinds of people have you thought about having, on it?" And I was like, "Oh, like my friend Luke. People know Luke through Instagram. Like my friend Jamie. Like all my boys in Norwich know him. Like doing his music and whatnot." And then I'm like, "Oh yeah, Nathaniel as well." But do I say, "Oh, do you know him from YouTube? He has 200,000
It's kind of
subscribers," or
changing.
do I say, "Oh, do you know him from Instagram? He has two hundred
Yeah,
thousand subscribers?" And I feel like, especially nowadays, most
yeah.
people do know you from Instagram. Like if they see,
Yeah, and TikTok, like it's weird. TikTok's my smallest social media, but I get a fair few people. Oh, like you're the person that does TikToks, and that's actually
really,
my. I have 100,000 on TikTok. Yeah, I have 100,000 on TikTok, but weirdly, that one seems to come up quite a bit. I would say even more so than
that's
YouTube
nuts.
now. But in all honesty, there's probably like in terms of my niche, right, fitness. There's probably tons and tons of people consuming mainly their fitness
Yeah,
content
man.
on TikTok now, and that just wasn't a thing back in the day. Like as I said, well, I haven't even said I started my YouTube in 2017, and then kind of got my like break in like 2019, and both in 2017 and then in 2019,
Was my
TikTok
thing.
was not anywhere near where it is now. I don't know when TikTok actually. I remember TikTok becoming like big in like
Yeah,
say like
in
2020
lockdown.
during
Yeah,
lockdown. That's when I think yeah, because even with Luke, I remember when Luke actually tagged us and saying like, actually, yeah, I want to start my TikTok. And Luke's actually made a transition to be fair, because he was
he
mainly
was.
TikTok before. Now with fashion stuff, he seemed to be doing
Yeah,
more Instagram. But I remember him saying that, and that was in like I think August of 2020. So like yeah, definitely 2020 I think was when a big change kind of happened, and that happens in every industry, man. I mean, you look at like people like consuming like where people go for movies and stuff like that. Like if it was like I don't know 2008, you got like Blockbuster, and then within like
hmm
a certain amount of years, then Netflix comes along, and people aren't buying in-person
no
DVDs and stuff like
DVDs
that
anymore.
anymore. And then now where's Blockbuster? Like that's just life. That's like
Yeah,
the one constant in life is like change. So you just
I mean,
kind of
even in
need
Luke's
to be
situation,
yeah
like he's still adapting because even he's now doing a bit of YouTube as well. Because
yeah
fashion, right, is you can go on Instagram and look at photos, right? You can go on TikTok and see someone do a video and whatever, and they're in a nice outfit or whatever. But
yeah
even Luke is diversifying because he's realizing what he can do with the film kind of part of
yeah
fashion, where like with fashion events they're quite big events, like they're kind of like spectacles. Like let's say he's got like a show, like an artist is doing a show, everybody's dressed nicely, everybody's like come out
yeah
in a nice fit. And with this Lost Files thing that he's doing, I might put it in the description because why not plug
yeah
Luke? You know what I mean? Why not?
yeah
But with his Lost Files stuff that he's doing, like he's clipping up together all of these events that he's going to, all of these things that he's doing just for fashion, and you see it on his Instagram, like he's in this fit, in that fit, and he's doing these behind the scenes, basically like camcorder VHS kind of stuff. And even he's diversifying. He started with TikTok, kind of left it
yeah
behind, moved to Instagram. And although he's not leaving Instagram behind, he's still moving. He's still
yeah
like transitioning and
yeah.
trying to make it whole.
100%. That's with everything like the number one thing that you see with brands, and I know we wanted to talk about stuff with brands, but the number one thing that brands do is go beyond just whatever it is that they're selling. When you see an advert for a brand, like the number one that people can probably understand is like say perfume. If you see a perfume ad, majority of the ad has nothing to do with the perfume. It's about a
No,
lifestyle. It'll be about a guy in a
it's
nice
true.
car with a beautiful woman, things like that. So that's the number one thing that brands try to get across as a lifestyle. So that's the same thing, like say with Luke's stuff. With fashion, it's not just about like the fits; it's the lifestyle.
It's
It's
true.
like the parties, like the events, stuff like that. That's what people are seeing, and then they
And that's what they're interested in.
will connect with exactly. So that's another same thing that fitness brands do. It's not just about the clothes; it's about the whole lifestyle. And that's where some of the value of like more of the longer form
Yeah.
content comes in because
I
people
mean,
like getting that across.
I was speaking to him when we did Luke, I'm talking about when we
Yeah,
did our episode about how if I put on, because I don't have his lifestyle, we have very different lifestyles. I mean, even you and I have different lifestyles, and I guess we'll talk like get into that in a
yeah,
little bit. But if I put on the fits that Luke wore, it
yeah,
wouldn't be the same. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, it's not just about the fit. It's not just about how the t-shirt goes with
Yeah.
the cargos, or the shoes go with the hat, or it's not really about that. It's about the lifestyle. I was
Mm.
saying to him that you could put on a fit that you don't think is very nice, right? But you put it on your Instagram and show your lifestyle and make like a behind the scenes video, and people are going to connect with it like, oh, this is real fashion. And
Yeah.
if that's the case, then it's evidence to say that fashion is not just the clothes, it's the lifestyle, and
Yeah.
it's what the people like connect with and think is going on behind the scenes, as well as just the outfit.
Yeah. And that's been a big focus for myself as well. Like always, because some guys start fitness from a place of almost like nothingness, in the sense where it's like they don't have like any other, say, interest, or like nothing else going on, or etc. And they just start the gym, and that becomes their one focus, the one thing that they're doing. You'll know that with me, that was never the case. First of
Mm,
all, when I started with stuff, I was still playing basketball, right?
yeah.
And then more than that, like I was speaking about it with Luke as well. Actually, it's funny how much he's actually coming up in our episodes. But
Yeah.
like in terms of like with even like fashion stuff, I've always done a bit of the fashion stuff as well, because that's also been an interest of mine as well. And then more than that, also when it comes to, say, like money, cars, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
was younger, I didn't have a girlfriend, even like girls, stuff like that. All that stuff is a lifestyle. So how that relates to fitness is that guys don't want to just go to the gym just to be like big, say, for the sake of being big. They want to be big because in their head it will help them get the girls. They want
Yeah.
to get money, all of that stuff. So it's always been a lifestyle thing, and that's what people. That's kind of, in all honesty, what you sell to people. And but like that's not necessarily a problem. It's more whether down to like whether or not it's real or not. For
Mm-hmm.
myself, it's always kind of been real. Like for the most part, it's just been like what I've been doing, and etc. And then that transitions over time, and you can see that because it's transitioned over time based on what I'm doing. I mean, obviously, like say stuff with like girls and stuff like that. That's obviously not a thing anymore because I'm a nice
Yeah.
committed man in a relationship now. Um, and then like say even like parties and that was a thing. Say I would post like when I was in uni and stuff like that, but now I don't really party like that, so that's not
Yeah.
really a
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
anymore. So it's like it's all about the lifestyle, but obviously being authentic to yourself and what you're actually doing, because people have a better nose than you think for like sniffing out fake
Some
stuff.
BS. Yeah.
So
And I think
yeah,
that's one
you
thing
always want
that
to be authentic.
that's one thing I do respect about your, like, the way that you've made what you've made of yourself and of your like social presence, is that I don't think I've ever seen anything that you've posted and been like, oh, that's not really the Nathaniel I remember. Like, with
Mm,
people, there have been some people that I know who have been like, they've changed a lot because they felt like they needed to
yeah,
change for what they're doing. And I completely understand it, because if you have a break, you can't just turn it down. Sometimes, well, some people are different to me. In my situation, I probably would be able to turn down a big break if it meant that, I was changing who I was. But I could never advise somebody to turn down like a big payday or an opportunity with a brand just because it meant that they were going to change a little bit. But in your case, I don't think I've ever been able to be like,
no,
yo, Nathaniel's changing, just because he wants to work with my
yeah,
protein, or just because he wants to work with Gymshark. And in that sense, like, maybe it's different for me because I know you, and some of your followers, subscribers don't know you. But to
yeah,
me, I've never been able to say, oh, that's not real. And I feel like also for those people that are listening and watching and like subscribing, that they also would feel the same, because there'll be times
yeah,
where you're sitting in your car, I don't want to go to the gym today, but I have to, kind of thing. Like in your
yeah,
prep for
100,
worlds, you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, like I don't want to work out today, and I felt terrible
yeah,
this morning or whatever, and you still went. And that kind of
yeah,
stuff, I think that's why people really enjoy watching your content. It's because you,
yeah.
not in like a condescending way, like you're just another guy. Do you know what I mean? Like you're like other
Yeah.
people.
Oh no, 100%.
And
And even like say for example before World Championships, I was talking about how I was I felt like the pressure of it, um the um the self doubt that creeps in from previous failures,
mm,
all stuff like that. I even doing things. You know how so the most like popping reel I've had recently has been obviously of my world record, but not just the world record. I showed my two previous
Yeah.
failures, and then me laying on the ground afterwards, like just distraught. Then obviously getting back up, going to world championships, and then doing even a weight above that and setting the world record. But obviously that reel connected with people in a different way because that's real, like that's real life. If you look at any movie, any series, the protagonist never ever has a smooth
No.
journey to achieving whatever goal, whatever it is that they have to do. There always has to be some adversity in order for it to be a compelling story because that's real life. Like most people don't just wake up and achieve their goals straight away.
No.
It's gonna take some falling down and getting back up. So that's why that one connects. And when I posted that as well, it was it was almost like a game where I woke up and I would see like a different like famous person that I knew that had liked that reel and I'd
Mm,
never had that before. I'm talking like Ty Dolla Sign, KSI.
that's nuts, bro.
There were so many. I literally took a screenshot on my phone of every single. I got like multiple. There was so many. It was like crazy that the amount, and I've never had that before. And I just think because that just connects people and it was real. But further than that, before I even did that reel and I had that ending, which was me achieving it, I made another one right when I had failed both of them, where I just posted the two failures, me laying on the ground, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I just put to be continued. That was it.
Yeah.
And so people would have seen that back in March, April when I posted that,
Yeah.
and then seeing that I actually went and actually achieved it months later, and it's like, okay, this is real. Like, in order for him to have gone from failing multiple times to going and doing even heavier, he must have had to not just work physically, but
But
also
mentally,
mentally in
yeah.
order to put himself in a position where he could bounce back from that. And that's the number one thing that I've also that's been a change recently, and people have connected with, because it's been a long time that I've been on social media, and if you don't keep connecting with people, and there's not a thing there where they can see themselves in you or want to be inspired, it can be a problem. And I
Honestly,
mean, guys have problems with this as well.
I have to say, like, you know, I have to plug this video, right? Because this video that I watched, you're one of the world championship one. When I say like I've
Yeah,
felt inspired lots of times. Like sometimes like my friends will do, especially by my friends, like, it's very easy to be inspired by an athlete or something like that because it's all over social media, right?
yeah,
But for me, I am very, very inspired by my friends because I know them and I'm like, well,
they're
it's
real.
real. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes when
yeah,
KSI posts that he did this, or when I don't know, any other like famous person, Lewis Hamilton or whatever, posted they did whatever. Right? When I see my friends
yeah,
do stuff, I'm like, my goodness, this is like it's possible for anyone because you're just like them, like
yeah,
them. And when I watched this
yeah,
video, I remember like the video's like 25 minutes long, something like that. And I needed to be somewhere in half an
mm,
hour. And I started watching the video because it came
yeah,
out at like 6. And you had the countdown. I was like, yo, I'm watching this video.
yeah,
Because I'm gonna be honest, like, I
yeah,
don't watch all your videos, and like this, like, I don't watch every single one of your videos, and like
yeah,
you probably don't listen to every single one of my podcasts, whatever, right? But this video is one of the most inspiring. It actually sounds like I'm just sucking your dick, but honestly, this
mm.
video,
I
bro,
appreciate that, man.
was so inspirational because it had the backstory, it had
Yeah,
the pre-weigh-in nerves, it had
yeah,
the trying to drinking water after the weigh-in,
yeah,
all the
yeah,
dehydration, and
yeah,
everybody being excited, the backflip after you did the
yeah. The world
I was
record,
like,
yeah,
bro, this is actually so insane, like
yeah,
seeing this from my friend. And
yeah,
like what you said about your reaction when you saw all the people like liking your reel and stuff, I find that so wholesome because
yeah,
a lot of the time people see or famous people, and it's weird to say, oh wow, Nathaniel's a famous person, but like that's actually just how it is, you know what I mean?
mm,
And people often think famous people would not be so, I don't know what other word to use than like childish about seeing all of
yeah,
these people, all
yeah,
of these like their icons or whatever liking
yeah,
their post, but screenshotting it, and because that's what we would
yeah.
all do, that's what everybody would do,
Bro,
and it's
I swear,
such like
I'm
a
still the same
wholesome.
person, man. Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
it's not just, and it's there's like multiple things there. It's like it's what it's about. First of all, it's not just like yeah, like a nice picture I put up or just something cool that I did. It was like something that was extremely important to me, like to the point where like I would like sit thinking about like, what I would do in that moment, all the times, going to the gym, I'm visualizing that moment. Even like, for example, in my last training session, like just little stupid things like when you're in a competition, like the competition is here, and then you'll walk in, say like usually like from over there and over there, like come over.
Mm-hmm.
My last training session, I literally just practiced like walking from over there over to the bar, and then just doing my
And
set.
just
Like,
yeah,
don't yeah, people don't even understand like how much that like goes into it on the mental side of things, and then to actually have done it, and then to get that validation from friends, family, and then beyond that, famous people that you look up to. It's not a thing where when you become a um a notable figure, you then stop being fans of people. Like, bro,
yeah,
I'm still a fan of like everyone. Like, do you know what I mean? So then seeing it actually happen, that was what meant so much to me. And I was explaining this to, I don't even know. I might have been in my head, but it's like I I now, it's not to say that I've completed life, because I have not, but it's a
no,
thing where this was a dream that I had, that I did not know if I could actually do, but I wanted it so badly, and then I worked for it, and I actually got it. And that feeling, that just chain of events, is something that I feel like if nothing else almost happens, I can be like, all right, well, I did
you're
that
still
thing,
okay.
that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
trying to do. Not to say that I don't have more ambition, because I have so much more ambition. I want like
Of
so
course.
much more, but just like being able to take one of my dreams and actually bring it to reality. That's why like
Mm.
it was the whole thing. I mean, I had requirements. Like I said, like if I like broke the world record and won worlds, that I was gonna do that backflip, and then that was it. That's why
Yeah,
like afterwards, if you watch the video, I do a deadlift, and then I don't react here when like straight afterwards. I just look for the lights, and then
yeah, yeah,
I take it off. I do the backflip, and then like I take it in, and then that's when I start
yeah.
screaming, going crazy, because it's like I had to compose myself until that moment. And it was like, yeah, that was really honestly something that, like as I said to you, I don't think like no one can like ever take away from me, and like seeing everything afterwards is like been another thing that's like made it so
Yeah.
worthwhile.
I think one thing
And
about
yeah,
that feeling that you talk about, that like making that dream come true, and I guess that's very relevant
yeah,
because the title of this episode, um, is that you're only 22, like you just turned 22, right? Like
yeah.
last month or this month, was it? The end of last month, early this month, no?
The end of last month, yeah.
End of last
End
month.
of last month,
Yeah. And a lot of people don't get that feeling until they're like later on in life, right? They don't get
yeah,
the opportunity to achieve something that they really wanted that bad, because realistically most people don't actually have anything that they want that bad,
exactly.
right? They're not
Yep,
sure what kind of career path they want to go down. They don't know really what they want from relationships. They don't know what they want from friendships. So to be able to experience wanting something so bad that you're willing to put everything into it and then getting it is
yeah,
like such a great experience for anyone to have, like just standard.
yeah. I want that for anyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's the type of experience that then makes you like have belief. Like, you said you had like
Yeah,
self-doubt and whatnot. You didn't know if you could achieve it. Achieving the thing that you want the most in the world, I guess it makes
yeah,
other tasks a lot easier, because I guess in my
hundred
situation, right,
percent.
there are lots of things that I've really, really wanted to do. And I don't think any of them have been like my life goal or anything that is that important, right? But one of the things was the half marathon that I ran in
Yeah,
September, and I really, really, really wanted to run an hour 45. Like I really, really wanted it. Right. At first, it was just I'm just signing up because if I sign up, I have to do it. And I was doing my training, and I didn't enjoy really my training because I liked running, but running 4 times a week was actually just ridiculous, and I just didn't like it really that
yeah,
much at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
But then it got to race day, and I think maybe I'm just like kind of self anxious and just nervous in general. And I was really nervous. I might even going to complete the race and whatnot. But like I composed myself and was able to, start the race. And I heard my first split.
yeah,
right? Because I had my headphones on. I heard my first split, and I was like
Yeah.
20 seconds ahead of schedule, like so far ahead of
Yeah.
schedule. And I was like, damn, this is crazy. Like, if I just run, I could slow down and still achieve my goal. But
Yeah.
it would, like, my brain didn't let me, like my body didn't let me, and I just
Yeah.
kept getting quicker and quicker and quicker. And when I crossed the finish line and saw the time, the feeling that I
Yeah.
had was like, I want everybody to have that feeling, because now
Yeah.
anytime anything gets difficult, I'm like, it doesn't matter, because I've done something harder. I've
Yeah.
done something that I want more. Like, if it's writing an essay,
Yeah.
right, for uni, I don't really want to do it, but I've done the thing that I
Yeah.
wanted so badly, and it was so difficult because I didn't run. Like, I was not a
100%.
runner. I only started running in
Yeah.
December, and I did the half marathon in September. And really, like, I
Yeah.
had no advice from anybody, no real like
Yeah.
standing in the running world. I didn't even have running shoes until like 2 months or a month before the race. Like, I didn't even really know what I was
Yeah.
doing, and being able to complete it and like having that feeling when I cross the finish line, like you said, I want that for everybody, because having that
Yeah.
experience, although it's not the same as you, because I didn't break any world records, bro. I was just a regular guy. Like,
No, but it's everything is
it's
relative.
relative, isn't it? So
Everything is relative.
I still
Yeah.
kind of have that I can do anything mentality. Like, I
Yeah.
still have that
100%.
it's possible kind of thing. And yeah, like
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah. 100%.
it's very rare that you have that when you're so young, because
Yeah. I mean, I don't take that for granted as well. I mean, after all the people, like, it was just like, it was just perfect. Like, this was most of my some of my friends had like never come to like a powerlifting competition with me before. And this time, a bunch of my friends decided they wanted to fly out with me. So and this was the first time that had ever happened. So I had a bunch of my friends in the stands. Um, they like just everything just what, and then like other people have done things like this before. Like there was a guy who, let's say, won the 83 kilo weight class in the opens this year, and last year he flew out his wife, his boss,
Mhm.
everything like that to watch him. He was in the running to win, and he ended up coming sick and having a really bad
Mm.
performance. And then this year, no one came out really, and he went on and he won. And obviously that was amazing, but I'm sure he would have wished that people could have been there. But the fact that I was able to do that when people were there as
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
and afterwards I just had this like immense sense of like gratitude. It was like it was crazy, man. But I honestly think that's what life's about, and it's like it doesn't always have to be those big things, because um inspiration can sometimes you can almost like scare people because they think like the things have to be this big. And when I talk about like the amount of pressure I felt and things like
Yeah.
that, people can kind of get scared of that. But it can literally just be little things in your life. Like for example, like I grew up a Christian, yeah, but I remember when I was like 16, I decided to do 1 day of Ramadan, 1 day, just try it, yeah. Um, and I remember the like obviously it gives you such respect for Muslims
Mm.
after doing just 1 day,
Yeah.
because you realize like how hard it is. Not just the not eating, but it's the not drinking
It's
that
very
is
tough. Yeah.
crazy, crazy. Like a fast, I feel like anyone could do a fast, but drinking water would be really important. But when you're fasting and you also can't drink water, it's really hard. I remember doing that. I remember completing it, yeah, and then just like anytime I felt hungry for like maybe months after that, I would just thought back to, oh well, I did Ramadan, so
Exactly.
I'll be alright.
That's what it's about.
That's the mentality, yeah. So it's like any like those like there are little things that anyone could do, where it's like if you do this really hard thing, it can just make the rest of
Everything's so
your
much
life
easier. I mean,
easier.
like,
Um,
even my
so yeah,
family's Muslim, right? And my dad is very devout, and my mom not so much, but they do Ramadan. And my little brother now, he's now 15, but he started being like very devout to Islam maybe like, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And when I see him doing Ramadan, because
yeah,
when I was younger, my dad he'd get me to do it, but he'd always let me drink water because he was like,
yeah,
you're going to school and stuff. So I
mm,
understood it, and I felt it like, whoa, this is really hard, but I've never really like
yeah,
done it. So this year,
yeah,
my brother and I, we were like, okay, he's gonna challenge me to do a couple of days with him, I don't know if it's this year. I
Yeah.
think the next one's in next year, but I'm not sure. Anyway, but just being like having the perspective of you've put yourself through something much more difficult than what you're going through right now, and you've come through the other side,
Yeah.
makes you realize that what's going on right now is not that difficult. Like it even happened to me this week on Wednesday, and we played Oxford, and I didn't get to play them last time. And I think I don't know if
Yeah.
I didn't speak about this in my last episode because it was literally this week. But I was really nervous before the game because I was out for 3 weeks with my concussion, and
Yeah.
I came back. This is my first game starting. I was really nervous, and then I'm sitting on the bench before the game, and I'm like, I can feel that I'm gonna play badly. Like I can feel
Yeah.
that I'm not really in it. But I reminded myself that you've come through worse things, right? You've done things that are more difficult than
Yeah.
getting in the zone. All you have to do is literally just find a place to get in the zone. First half went by, I played terribly, it was really bad, whatever. But at no point did I feel like nervous that I wasn't going to get to that point where I, without knowing any other words, I basically just locked
Yeah.
in, right? And I performed well
Yeah.
in the second half, like so well, even better than I expected to. And I don't think I would have been able to do that if I hadn't done those things that I set my mind to and that were actually really tough, like doing the half marathon or, like getting a first class in my
Yeah.
degree. Like I really, really tried really hard for that. I think I like was in denial because I kept telling myself and my friends, I don't really care. Like if I get a 2-1, it's still good and whatever.
Yeah.
But subconsciously, I really, really cared. And I could tell, especially on results day, because I
Yeah.
opened my results and the screaming that my mum and I did in that morning was so crazy because it
Yeah.
was like a sense of relief. Like, if I can do this, I can do anything,
Yeah.
So yeah, I get exactly what you
100%,
mean.
man. 100%.
But
Um, it's actually similar in powerlifting as well, even with just the movements that we do. So for the people that don't maybe understand powerlifting, basically powerlifting, you do three disciplines. It's a squat, a bench press, and a deadlift. And the winner is who has the biggest total
mm,
of all three. So you do three attempts of each, and they'll take your highest attempt, and with your highest attempt to squat, highest attempt to bench, highest attempt to deadlift, whoever has the biggest, that's the winner, right? So obviously each movement is obviously very different. Squat is mainly lower body, bench is your upper body, deadlift is like your legs and your back. But you can ask any powerlifter. Um, a heavy squat it feels like you're going to die. It is so bad. It's all I think about prior to the competition. It's and it was always funny because my third squat was like everything and worse that I
mm,
thought it was gonna be. I'll tell you, it like that the commentators saying that it was like one of the longest grinds that they'd seen in the competition. A grind is like when you're fighting the weight for ages and ages, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
my one, I think the total squat took like 6 seconds or something, which is a really long time.
It's a long,
Or like 4 seconds or something. Either way, I counted it and it was long, yeah.
a
And
long.
what
It
was I gonna
probably
say?
felt even longer than it
Oh,
was.
it felt like I can't describe, and it's not something that you can experience as well, just being real, until you get stronger, because obviously I'd done heavy squats before when I was younger and not as strong. But basically when you get stronger, the it's not just relative. The absolute load of the weight puts a bigger stress on the body than it did when you were weaker. It's why, like, I don't know if you've seen
Yeah,
Eddie Hall's 500 kilo deadlift. Like,
I think I've
he
seen
set
a
a
clip of it.
yeah
Yeah,
he set a world record back in like
the world
2016, right?
record. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and his nose is bleeding. He goes into a concussion afterwards, everything
mm,
like that. There's nothing that you could replicate doing that. Let's say if you were however much you were and you could do like 100 kilos, there's nothing that could replicate that. But with the squat,
yeah,
after squats, it's like the meat is done because it's like, all right, I've got through the hardest part of the competition. Bench is not that
yeah.
deep. It's not that bad. It's an upper body lift. Like your lower body is way stronger than your upper body, so the amount of pressure it puts in your body as a whole is just not as much. And then
It's
deadlifts,
fine. Yeah,
if you actually think a deadlift is almost like half a lift because all you have to do is get it to the top and then you can just put
let's
it
just
back down.
stand up. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. All you got
yeah,
to do is
yeah.
stand up. Obviously, deadlifts can be hard, yes, but compared to a squat, man, I take a deadlift any day. So leading up to the competition, man, all what's giving me sleepless nights is, man, this squat's gonna be so bad. What if I fail? And if you fail your third squat, there is a high likelihood that you can just mess up the competition for yourself, because that's what my opponent did. He failed his third squat, and that just opened the door for me to be able to go in and win. So ideally, that's why you want to be slightly more conservative, just to make sure that you get your
So
attempts,
you
and
complete
maybe,
it. Yeah.
yeah, maybe save 2.5 kilos here and there, but like in the long run, it's better than missing an entire attempt.
And
Uh,
also, I can imagine the mental struggle of failing your third attempt and feeling like you're behind the eight ball is
exactly.
probably bad because it's squat first.
Squats first. It goes squat, then bench, then
Yeah.
deadlift.
So, like, at least if
Yes,
I
that.
was in that position and I failed my third squat and this is the start of the competition, yeah, you
Yes.
can reset, but
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
It's,
Like,
yeah,
what?
it's pretty bad.
You
No,
feel
no,
like you're
100%.
cooked.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, like for example, I did another podcast with one of one of the main powerlifting commentators on his podcast, King of the Lifts, and he was like, after squats, because I was, so just to kind of just explain to some people. So generally speaking, people have different lifts that they're good at. Usually this is just down to anatomical differences, right? Just down to each person's body. So one guy I was competing against, the American Brandon Jones, he's like a bit shorter, stocky guy, right? So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
lends itself to being good at like squat and bench press. But because his levers aren't as long, like his arms and stuff, he doesn't have the best leverage for deadlift, so he's not good at deadlift. The other main guy I was competing against was this French guy called Richmond Baden. He is pretty much an overall just balanced lifter. He's got like fairly like long. He's got a like big frame, good muscle development. So he was like good across the board. Myself, um, I have like long legs, long arms.
long
I'm a
arms.
bit more like
Yeah,
a athletic kind of build. So my squat is like okay, pretty good. My bench historically was like not that good because of my really long
yeah.
arms.
I
When
remember
your
you
arms are really
saying,
long,
yeah,
you have to travel a further
there's
distance on
just
the
more
bench press, so
distance
it's
to push it
harder.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But because of my like some like the areas of my muscular development, and then more than that, just my levers, my really long arms and etc., I've always been like really good at the deadlift, right? So
Mm,
there's some kind of interplay with that there, like what lifts you're best at. So I in competitions, I'm always going to be a lot behind my main opponents
of
going
course.
into the deadlift, because they'll have a big lead on me in squat and bench, and then I'll have to make up that distance on deadlift. So from that guy who was in first, I had to make up, I think it was 35 kilos. I had to deadlift
Mm,
35 kilos more than him, which was a huge amount. And in order to do that, I had to not just break the world record, I had to go 5 kilos over the world record, which is
above it.
huge. Like in powerlifting, there's a special like provision for world records where in attempts you have to go up by increments of 2.5. But if you're breaking a record, you can break it by half a kilo. That's the only time that they bring out like half a kilos, basically.
Yeah.
So usually, when a lot of times when guys break records, they just go half a kilo over. That's what the guy that broke the record before me. It was 355 kilos. He did 355.5.
Yeah.
But I had to go and do 360.5
360.
kilos
Yeah.
because that's how much I needed to beat this guy, because that's how far ahead of me he was. So going
Hmm.
back to what I was talking about, the commentator, he was like, so after squats, you were quite a bit behind those guys, and you really like grinded out your third. Like, how did you feel? Because the perception at that point was like, oh, Nathaniel's quite a bit behind.
So
But I
far
was like,
behind.
I after that, I was like, I'm gonna win this
You're
meet.
gonna win.
Reason
Yeah.
being is because I, yes, my third squat was a grinder and I was a bit behind, but I at least got mine. The
He
guy
failed
in
his.
third, yeah, he failed his squat, and the other guy failed his second squat on a technicality, which
Mm,
was depth, and had to retake it. So each of them missed an attempt. So even though I'm behind, I'm not as behind as I thought I was gonna be. So
hmm.
I was feeling really good because I knew that if I'm gonna win, I have to deadlift like way more than these guys, and I knew I was able to do that.
You're capable of
Just
it.
depending on how much over it was. But yeah, just for those who don't kind of understand powerlifting, it's actually very technical and very strategic as well. With that. And you kind of get to know that more the more that you kind of get into it. But I tried to get some of that across in my videos because I have a lot of people who don't follow powerlifting, but they follow me, and just kind of like explaining that to them so they can kind of get a grasp of the competition more.
Yeah. No, I do hear that. And I think it's good that it's like that because it means that, like we were saying earlier, the people are learning about powerlifting, but they're not learning about
Yeah,
powerlifting just because they're interested in it. They're learning about it because it's you that's telling them, you know.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
also, I guess, like, what one thing I did want to speak about, as just like a little topic, is especially leading on from that with all of these people that you're introducing to powerlifting and that are following you. I know we
yeah,
spoke a little bit about pressure earlier, but
yeah.
what is it like? Because people put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, different people put different amounts of pressure on themselves, but to a lot of people, it's very overbearing, and it's very, in some situations, quite crippling how much pressure they put on themselves. But for most of the people, not all of them, I can assume, but for most of the people at Junior World Championships, they don't have as many followers as you. They don't have as many
No,
people interested in as you. Like, yeah, their parents are interested, their friends are interested, they maybe have a significant other that's interested, but they don't have 200,000 people watching, like,
yeah,
Nathaniel's supposed to win. Because that's what, especially for
yeah.
the people that don't
That's what people
understand
thought.
powerlifting, they just expect that you're
Uh,
supposed to win because they don't
I love
see
that you
the
said that.
others, right? They see you and they're like,
Exactly.
he's supposed to win. Like, well, how could he ever lose? He's this guy with a Porsche and he's got a nice place and he has a girlfriend and a dog or whatever, right? And they think you're supposed to win.
Yeah.
So I I wanted to ask, like, what is it like dealing with that pressure both for yourself but also that external
Mm.
pressure as well?
Yeah. It's hard, man. It's So at first, I kind of almost ran away from it a little bit. So just for a little backstory, so I um I started powerlifting when I got to university. So obviously I had done YouTube prior to this, and within like I think a couple of weeks of actually getting to university, that's when I hit 100,000 subscribers. So going around like on campus, just not even just on campus, just in the general university area, because especially like being in the Midlands. I was at Loughborough, you were at Nottingham, so in Loughborough, Nottingham, Leicester,
Yeah.
etc., especially, people knew me quite a bit at that point. Um, and Yeah, so people knew me when I got to university, and like I just decided to start the join the powerlifting team because I had never competed prior to that. But going to uni, they've got a team. There's British University Championships Bucks.
Hmm.
It was just like a pathway to just start doing it and also be involved in something because like any sport that you do at uni, whether it's like a buck sport or like even the society or something, you'll have a community of
It's
people around
such
you
a
and
nice
etc. So it's a
experience.
good place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's great. Like I think starting powerlifting in that environment was like the best way I could have gone about it. So I started then. I did a qualifier comp for British University Championships, and then it was British University Championships time. And I like exceeded my expectations. I came second, which is like a huge result
Hmm.
at Bucks then. But after that, I actually did not really want to do powerlifting. Some of it was down to the pressure. I felt such immense pressure beforehand because, as you said, it wasn't just about me. Yeah, and the pressure that I had on myself and my friends and etc. It was about all the people watching. I mean, I was at my kind of peak on YouTube at around those times.
Yeah.
So we're talking over 100,000 views on my powerlifting videos and stuff like that. Um, it was just a lot of pressure, and I actually kind of shied away from it after that, even though I had a great result after that. And I actually, after that I actually qualified for world university championships, and I just
Mm.
didn't get
You
back to the
just,
email. I
yeah.
was just not really interested at that point. And I only like signed up for a meet in September, just to make content out of, and then I pulled out of that meet. I didn't even do it because I didn't train properly for it. um so it took an adjustment process in that regard to be able to deal with the pressure. And then what basically happened was I took a year out of uni that year, so 2021 and no 2022 into 2023,
Yeah.
that academic year. I took that year out of uni, but because I had all these social media stuff going on, Gymshark, My Protein, etc.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of focus on that. But then I realized that like I was kind of missing something in a sense because that when I did content prior to that, I always did it whilst being at school,
Yeah.
sixth form,
Uni.
university,
Yeah.
etc. So I felt like I was missing something. So then I basically just decided to get into powerlifting. There's more of a like story how it like that happened, but I got into powerlifting, and then last year was like my kind of break into powerlifting because prior to that I was kind of just known as a social media guy. But like Anyway, just cut a long story short, I qualified for junior British nationals, came third, managed to get to world championships. Not a lot of expectation for me because people didn't really know me in powerlifting like that. But I managed to go from eighth in nominations, like prospective, like what people
Wait,
have
yeah,
done
yeah, yeah.
before, to coming third. And then I did junior European championships and I won.
Mm.
So this was like a huge result at that point and like solidified me as like an actual powerlifter. But then carrying that into this year now people are like, okay, we see Nathaniel, etc. Now we just
He's supposed
expect
to
him to
win.
win.
Hmm.
So that was such immense pressure this year because I see people in the gym, leading to world championships. I remember seeing my friend's dad, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you're gonna win," stuff like that. And I'm in my head, I'm like,
It's not a
I don't know if I'm
guarantee.
gonna
Yeah,
win, bro.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's not guaranteed at all. Like they don't know some of these other guys in other countries, and like even this year as well in nominations, I was fourth. I'd put up the fourth highest total. There was three guys that had put up bigger totals than me leading into world championships. So it was not guaranteed at all that I was gonna win, and it took special circumstances almost in order for me to win. It took some of those guys, like not executing their game plan, but I always had trust in mine. But yeah, like dealing with that sort of pressure had been something that like I had to just adjust to and just kind of embrace. And I remember even one person like at the gym was just like, oh, like kind of like represent for like South London, etc. I was like, actually, you know what? Yeah. Like, yeah, that's real. Like people are gonna look at me and I still live in like South London. I see people all the time. I don't even really go to like bougie gyms like that a lot of time. I go
Same
to like the
places.
gym
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
the
yeah.
time, like the gym group. So I'm saying, and I see people, and it's like these guys like look up to me because I'm from like their area. It's like it's inspiring to them. So it's like, yeah, I do want to like represent for these guys, and that was even just a small thing someone said to me that actually did stick with
Yeah.
me. Um, and then yeah, so going into the competition, I genuinely like it was in the competition after squats, after bench, somebody gets the deadlift, and I know that it's kind of like my time. Like I had these goals I had for the world record, etc. I genuinely just felt like this calm come over me, and like, have you seen like the stuff with like Lethal Shooter, where it's
I
the thing that's like,
understand
oh,
it
I
now.
understand it now. Yeah, I genuinely, weirdly enough, I've actually got a friend group where they were saying shit like this, like that I understand it, like prior to when this
Yeah.
even blew up. But like it genuinely felt like that in that moment. It genuinely felt like things quieted in my head. I just kind of
Hmm.
was in like a flow state, and it was just a different level of like understanding that I didn't have previously, and I didn't have access to previously because I hadn't been through what I had been through. But going through, the failures, the pressure, all of that stuff had led me to that moment where it's like now, like I genuinely felt like I understood it, and that's why when I watch back my like World Championships video, what actually gives me like the most goosebumps of myself is not even the lift, it's me walking up to the deadlift. Because when I did that, I turned to the crowd like I was doing like showmanship type stuff. And in the past, I could never do that because I was too nervous.
Too
I couldn't like
nervous. Yeah.
play to the crowd or anything because I'm literally like shitting it. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I couldn't
Yeah.
do that. But in that moment, everything just quieted down, and even though that was the biggest moment genuinely of my life leading up to that point, the world record was on the line, the world championship was on the line. I just had this calmness that came over me. So it was like it genuinely doesn't. It almost feels like an out of body experience that happening, and the fact that that was something that led to like me actually achieving one of my dreams. But like, yeah, it's been a long process to understand that, and some people don't even understand it to the point where I went on one podcast. They were like, "You don't feel pressure, do you?" Like, because that might be what you might interpret from me
What they've seen.
being able to do that stuff and etc. But no, it's not that I don't feel pressure. It's that I do feel it, but I just almost like embraced it
And
and
you've
used
experienced
it.
so much of it as well. Like,
Exactly.
I think it's very important, I guess, for the people especially listening, right? Because like one thing I did say when I first started this podcast is that like when I'm talking and when I have people on, like I'm also learning as well, because there are things that you'll be able to talk about that I'm not very good at, or things that I might be able to talk to you about that you're not good
Yeah.
at. And then for the viewers, it's the same thing. There are little bits that I've got a bit more expertise, you have a bit more, and maybe them listening, they have like a thing that they might DM me or something like, oh, I've got a take, right? Because I
Yeah.
deal with pressure very poorly, right? Where the internal pressure that I feel is so high, where like I because for some reason I believe that I can actually do everything like well, like
Yeah,
anything I set out to do, I believe that I could do everything well, and I think it's because I'm very analytical about things. So it happens a lot when I play basketball, where let's say I turn the ball over, I'm like, well, I know why I turned it over. So like
yeah,
the pressure of I know what to do, why haven't I been able to do it? Like that kind of pressure is quite, you
yeah,
know, demobilizing sometimes, but then also the external pressure as well, because I've kind of put myself in a position now because I'm president of the society and captain of the first team, where
yeah,
I've got this perception. Maybe it isn't real, right? Maybe people don't truly come to games like this guy's supposed to score 30 points or he's supposed to lock up their best player, that kind of thing. But in my mind, maybe it's because I deal with pressure so poorly. I have this expectation like I'm supposed to be good, right? Because
yeah,
people are expecting me to be good. And if I play poorly, then, I'm doing them a disservice. It shouldn't be me that's captain of the team. It shouldn't be me that's, you know, president of the society or president of the club, right? And I can imagine that if I was in your situation, I'd be like, these 200,000 people are
yeah,
expecting me because, like, in my situation, I know it's all relative, but the scope of the pressure is much smaller.
yeah,
But I guess for those people listening, right, it's good to hear you say that you're only okay with dealing with pressure, or you were only able to be so calm in that moment because you embraced all of the pressure, right? You
yeah,
didn't, like, if you had run away from the pressure and stopped going to meets and continue to
yeah,
like not do the things that came with pressure or pressure came with
yeah,
them, then you wouldn't have had that calm moment, like if I
yeah,
decide, oh, I
100%.
don't want to play basketball anymore because the pressure is too crippling, I'm never going to have a moment where I'm like, it's fine, like I'm relaxed. Like
Yeah,
there are certain moments, and I guess it's relative to different tasks and different things. Like for you, deadlift is probably like the perfect storm, because deadlift is your best
yeah,
thing, right? It's the thing you have the most confidence in. Maybe if squat was last and
yeah,
it was your third lift and you're like, well, I have to do this to
yeah,
win, maybe it'd be a bit different for you. And I feel the
yeah,
same thing in basketball. Like if I'm at the free throw line, like I had a game last season, it was the first game of the season, and this was probably the most pressure I felt playing basketball, because it was my first time in the first team, and I was the captain and I was the president, and it was the first game of the season. And we were down 2 points, and I had two free throws, and there was like 4 seconds left. So basically, if I missed, then we would have lost. And
yeah,
the calm that I felt was, like you kind of said, it was kind of like an out of body experience, where
yeah,
because I'd felt so much pressure in my time playing football and playing basketball, when I'm standing at the free throw line, I don't feel it. It's not that I don't feel it, is that I've
yeah,
embraced it so much that I can remove myself from the pressure, and I
yeah.
can,
And you can operate under that stress.
yeah, like I can, my form was exactly how I practiced, my routine was exactly the same as I practiced. Like I didn't feel any pressure regardless of how high the stakes are. And I guess for the people listening, what I'm trying to say is that it's all relative, right? It's relative to different tasks. Like you're going to feel more pressure with certain things. Like I don't feel pressure with free throws, but if it's guarding somebody full court, yeah, I'm going to feel a bit more pressure. Maybe in your situation, if you had bench last or squat last, maybe you wouldn't
Yeah,
have had that calm, like, out of body experience.
yeah,
But you can only get to that experience in any different discipline by embracing it, by
yeah,
guarding the guy full court, even if you're shaking and you're nervous, because do that 5, 10, maybe 15 times. And the next time you have to do it, maybe you're just so calm that you know exactly what to do.
yeah. No, 100%, man, 100%. And it's been this year. I think has been such a learning experience because having just both sides of that, having that pressure and then failing,
Hmm.
and then having that kind of even more pressure, even more weight on the bar, and then achieving it. It just kind of goes to show you like what your mind is capable of, and yeah,
And both ways as well. Like
yeah,
your mind is capable of adding weight and being able to, like, putting you in a position
yeah,
where you're able to add weight and be able to do it. But you also, I think,
yeah,
have to be self-aware that your mind can also do things in the opposite direction, where you, oh no, we're all good. Where you have to because you failed something, your mind might take you to a place where now you're not capable of doing anything. Like there are NBA players,
Yeah.
like I'm sure you've heard of Nick Anderson, of his story where like he missed the 2 free throws. I know we talk about basketball a lot. I'm just assuming you know. There's this guy who used to play
Mm.
for the Magic.
Was he on the? Is in the grid? Oh, what series
This
was
was
that in the
like
playoffs?
years and years and years ago, like probably like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Basically, he had 2 free. I think it's Nick Anderson. I think that's his name.
Oh, was this the series against Hakeem?
I
No.
think it was, yeah, like where he had 2 free throws and he'd always been like a 90% free throw shooter his whole career. And he missed one of the
Yeah.
2 free throws, or maybe he missed them both, right? And he then had 2 more free throws maybe a minute later and missed them both as well. And then for the remainder of his career, he was a
Yeah.
bad free throw shooter. So like if you get to a point where you can understand your mind is capable of, in your situation, you added weight and you were capable of doing it. And in his situation, he just stopped being able to
Yeah.
shoot free
It
throws,
drew him
right?
back.
Like
Yeah.
if you can get to a
Yeah.
point where
But it's no, I was gonna say on that, it's something that is in each person's ability because after like I failed my, first world record attempt and then the British record attempt, I remember in my because obviously the way that we train in powerlifting, we go for like a fairly heavy number like every block, which is like about 4 weeks. So we do like 4 weeks of training, go for a heavy number, 4 weeks of training, like go a heavy number. That's kind of how we work. But I remember my first like end of block heavy deadlift. That was like the first time that I'd had like more nerves over because this was just coming off of
2
two
failures.
really public
Yeah.
failures. So that was the first time, and in that moment, like it's you kind of just have to do it, and then that new information that you get, well, okay, I was able to do that, kind of compiles, and then that's how you build yourself back up. You don't just kind of go from like zero to hero. Um, you kind of need to take those kind of smaller wins over time. That helps to build your confidence back up, and then almost like take yourself out of it and almost take your ego out of it, because sometimes pressure can come down to our ego and our
Mhm.
self-perception. This perception of ourself, you say with yourself, where it's like you feel like you can like
Do
do
anything,
anything,
yeah.
etc. All of that is kind of like ego and self-perception, and all of those things can be driving forces, like say for like Michael Jordan and people like that, but they can also be inhibitors
Mhm.
when you maybe don't reach that and you start to um, doubt yourself. And like an example of this UFC was like Ronda Rousey. She
Yeah.
when she was tearing through like the women's division, she had like this crazy ego, believed she could beat men in
Yeah.
fights and all this stuff, right? And then when she lost to Holly Holm, and then when she lost again to Amanda
Mhm.
Nunes, I think she was even talking about, I mean, I'm not gonna say it on YouTube, but contemplating like
Yeah.
not being
Yeah, yeah,
here
yeah.
anymore and like all this stuff because it had destroyed this hugely, well, in reality, inflated
Perception of herself.
self-perception
Yeah.
because she believed she was the best fighter ever, like nobody could beat her and things like that. And in reality, it's not true. I mean, when it comes down to basketball, when it comes to me for lifting, I could lose, I could do my
Yeah.
preparation correctly and still fail, etc. In reality, we're all just human, and that kind of ego and like inflated self-perception can sometimes trick us into believing we're more than we are or we're less than we are.
Mhm.
So then the answer to that is kind of like stoicism, but not just like being like stone faced, but like in the sense of like living in the truth of who you are, in terms of like not thinking you're more than you are, not thinking you're less than you are, but just living in the
Yeah,
truth.
and being
And I think the
realistic.
number one thing I remember, like exactly. And the number one thing from my 1 year of sports science at Loughborough, the one thing that uh, affects like self-efficacy, the number one is like previous experience, like building off of what you have done in the past, because that is like empirical fact.
Yeah.
That is like, I did
Uh-huh.
this, is like probably the most important things that you can draw back on, because that, as opposed to like ego, is real and it's not just a perception.
See,
So that's the number
yeah,
one
that's
thing.
exactly why that Nick
Um,
Anderson thing is so it's difficult to hear, right? Because in my mind, what happened is he was such a good free throw shooter. So, all right, in my situation, right, where I say I don't really feel pressure in free throw situations anymore, is because I've got all of the, like you said, empirical evidence that I'm very good at shooting free throws. Like I make them at a consistent rate. So
Yeah.
when I'm in a slump,
Yeah.
I don't go, oh my God, I can't shoot anymore, and start trying to change things and start trying to do different routines and whatever. I just continue doing what I'm doing because I know in my mind I'm going to miss. Sometimes I'm going to miss a few in a row, right? That doesn't automatically mean that I'm not good anymore. I don't have to change anything because I'm living realistically. Like, it's possible for me to miss, right? And this Nick Anderson story is like quite difficult for me to hear because what it seems like happened is that he missed 4 3 throws in like a really important situation, and it looked like he was so scared for that to ever happen again that he was like, I've got to change things, and didn't actually draw back on the fact that you can miss 4 3 throws in a row at any time, right? It just
And still be
Yeah,
a good free
just
throw
because it
shooter.
happened then doesn't mean you need to change things so that it doesn't happen again. Realistically,
Yeah.
percentage wise, he was such a good shooter that if he had all 4 of them again, he could make all 4 next time, you know? And it's like not to say that
Yeah.
I understand his mind more than him. He's a professional NBA player. I obviously couldn't do what he does. But maybe if he had more of an
Yeah.
understanding of the fact that his mind was telling him he was bad when really, like, the empirical facts show that he's actually very good, maybe he wouldn't have been a bad shooter for the rest of his career and not change the things that he changed, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, not like regular people shouldn't
That was just
underestimate
so
like the
everybody,
mental
because
strength
not
that they
everyone
have
can
in
see the video.
comparison.
Nathaniel did regular in quotation
Oh,
marks,
I was
so you don't feel
in
condescended.
quotation. Yeah. So you don't feel confident. No, that's not what I meant. But like, yeah, in quotation marks, regular people shouldn't underestimate like the mental strength they have in comparison to like say professional athletes or people like that, because you don't necessarily realize what like may have led a person to be in that position, and like in the sense that you may have gone through things in your life that are much harder than anything they had to go through their life. And I mean, if we take a standard NBA player now, like a standard 19-year-old kid that gets drafted in the NBA, they may have, I mean, which is the case for quite a few of them now, grown up in a fairly
Yeah,
well off, decently privileged home, started basketball and just been good at it, right? There's some just innate ability that comes
yeah,
with being a top player. Then obviously perfect their skills, etc. From probably age of like 12, 13, been on AAU teams, getting to travel all over the country, doing great things, having great experiences, going to a good high school, then going to a great school, a great college, and then getting drafted in the NBA. Like in that story, there's not necessarily tons of adversity that they necessarily would have
hmm,
had to overcome, versus a normal person may have had tons of
yeah,
adversity that they may have overcome. So just because in this one particular discipline, basketball, this guy is better than you, doesn't mean he's stronger mentally than you. Doesn't mean
it's
anything. It
very
just
true.
means that this guy is just really good at putting a ball in a basket.
Yeah,
So it's like
exactly.
you can look at like that's why it's important not necessarily to always put athletes, sportsmen, musicians, etc. on pedestals. You do realize that they're just normal people, and then sometimes when you peel the layers
Yeah,
back, you also realize that some of them are not worse, but like have more issues than regular people.
hmm,
I mean, even just look at a normal thing like say maybe like the amount that NBA players cheat on their girlfriends or like stuff like that. I mean, like just normal stuff, right? They
just
may
basic
be
stuff.
lacking,
Yeah,
they may be lacking in areas that you're not lacking in as much. So it's like you
yeah,
and this goes both ways as well because people are Dave Chappelle had this funny joke about I think there was a hurricane in America, and then the reporter was like, "Okay, and we've got Ja Rule on the phone to give some thoughts." He was like, "Bro, who cares what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this? Like, bro, okay, this guy's good
yeah.
at music, but he don't have the answers about what's going on with this
Doesn't mean he has
hurricane. Like,
anything.
do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? This guy's good at music, and that's that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, don't necessarily just put people on pedestals just because they excel in a certain area, And then the flip side of that is don't necessarily undervalue yourself just because you haven't done what in this area that another person has
yeah.
done.
I think
And
it's
that's
a lot
yeah,
worse nowadays, especially because we have so much access to, again, in quotation marks, famous people or notable people, because of social media. So, like, if I want to go see anything about LeBron James, right, I can just watch a video and see him playing basketball and being really good. And on the flip side, we have basically no access, as it should be, no access to his personal life, to what he's like as a human being and to what he's good at, you know, personally or mentally, or the strength that he has. Maybe LeBron James isn't a perfect example because there is kind of evidence
Because
there that he's like
he
mentally
seems like a
strong.
pretty good guy, yeah.
He seems
But
like a
other
good guy,
guys,
but there are lots of also, you know, famous, notable people who we have no idea what their mental framework is like.
no,
So stories will come out that they've done terrible things, and we're like, oh my God, how could that ever happen? It's this NBA guy who
no.
I've watched and he's really good at basketball. He
Or like
must
John
be.
Jones, for example.
Exactly, right? And I think what we do a lot is we undervalue those things that we keep private, those things that people, not everybody has access to. We undervalue being good at them, right? We undervalue being loyal, being respectful, having manners. We
Mm,
undervalue those things because we don't have access to it for everybody, right?
yeah,
So we don't we basically just assume that everybody has it, and then when it comes out that they don't, we're all surprised. But what I
yeah,
would say is that, like, the things that you do as people, whether that's say please and thank you all the time, whether that's, you know, show respect and empathy to your friends and family, and all of these small little things that you might think are insignificant, you have to remember that not everybody has those traits.
yeah,
For you it might
100%.
be second nature, and for others it's very difficult, or they just don't have that at all. So you should
Yeah,
really be like, the same way that they're really good at putting a ball in a basket, you're also really good at showing empathy and sympathy, right?
yeah,
And you shouldn't
exactly.
distinguish the two just because he's making 100 million a year doing
Yeah.
that and you're just making nothing by being a good person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And the the thing that can help that for people is seeing people up close. It's why there's that saying about like why you shouldn't meet your heroes, because a lot of times people, the perception of them that you have in their head doesn't match up to reality. But one
No.
benefit that I've had from doing what I'm doing is that I've met quite a few people that I've looked up to, or like a decent amount of like quite decently famous people, especially on like, social media and stuff like that. And the one thing that you can take from it is just that these people are just regular people,
Yeah.
and they happen to excel in this one particular area, but that does not mean that they excel in every area. And most people will
Mm.
never see that because they don't meet these people. But I can give an example that, for example, people might put myself on a pedestal, right? But you
Yeah, they
know
probably
me and
do.
have known me since I was 13 years old. So you
Yeah.
know I'm just a regular guy. Do you know what I'm
Just a
saying? But
guy.
to other people, they might not see that because they only see this one side, and put so much value on this, one area where I, excel. So that's, I think, a very important thing. And you have it where you meet people and you actually are like, damn, I did not expect this guy
To
to
be like
be
that.
like this much of a degenerate, bro. Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I
No,
mean?
it's real,
That
honestly.
happens,
And I
bro.
think
That
in my
happens.
my position, being friends with you and being friends with Luke, I guess not so much with you because although we've been friends for so long, we don't actually see each other that much because
Yeah,
you're so busy, and especially with uni, like I actually try quite hard. So I don't like,
yeah,
even like with your birthday party, for example, like for me, it was difficult to come because I don't have all the money in the world being at uni, and also I have like things to do at uni, right? So
yeah,
we don't see each other that much. So I don't meet all of the people in your industry that much, right? But I think
yeah,
a lot more with Luke because Luke was here in Nottingham for a little bit,
yeah.
and I met some of the people that, you know, he's in with in the industry and stuff, and I was shocked by their personalities. I was
Yeah.
like I know Luke wouldn't just be friends with terrible people, but like right now I actually feel like this guy is not a very good person. Do you know what I mean? And it was quite
No, I get
shocking.
that. I get that. I
Yeah.
get that. And also, it's a it's it's a real thing where when that you can start to like believe your own hype, or like someone say like start drinking your own Kool-Aid. Like
Mm,
when you excel in this area and everyone loves you for this area, you can start to let other things in your life kind of slip. Um, and it's important to have real people in your life that aren't just yes men, in
for
order to
real.
keep you in check. And I mean, pretty much all of my friends are people that have done and will put me in check. And I wouldn't want it any other way, because when you don't have people like that in your life, that's when the kind of downhill spiral, I think, can start to begin. And much worse is when you then start to surround yourself with people who do let you do those things and maybe encourage you to do those kind of things,
Hmm.
and shy away from those people that actually know you and know the real you. I think that's just a recipe for disaster, and that does
That's
happen
why,
to quite a few people.
yeah, that's why I always tell you to reply to your flipping messages, bro. Because I know
Yeah,
in your heart you want to reply, but things are making it difficult for you to. So, if you just surround yourself with yes men, they might tell you, oh, it's fine that you're doing what you're doing because you're busy or whatnot. But I know that you wouldn't want to be the person who doesn't reply to messages.
yeah,
So it's
no, I get
definitely
you.
important to surround yourself with people that want to allow you to maintain, like, or continue being yourself. Because if someone was
100.
to, you know be like, oh, Nathaniel, it's fine that you don't respond all the time or very quick, not like you're a terrible replier, but like sometimes you're very busy, right?
Yeah,
If someone was to say, Nathaniel, that's fine, slowly you would stop being the person that's conscious of their friendships, because you are very conscious of your
yeah,
friendships. And
yeah,
those kinds of people obviously don't care about you maintaining your personality and don't care about you maintaining your values, because obviously that is a value. Friendships is important to you. And yeah,
yeah,
like you said, it happens to a lot of people where I don't know if it's because the people that are those yes men are just so invested in being part of their lifestyle, or they want stuff from them and they just want to make them happy so that they can get things or they can be involved. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's more important to be a good friend to them, than be involved in their life. Like, I don't
yeah,
go to many of the things your events
yeah,
and whatnot, and the same with Luke. Even though, like, it's, I could, if I really wanted to, I could drop out of uni and be like, hey, Nathaniel, I'm gonna go everywhere you go. Like, I'm
yeah,
sure that wouldn't be a
yeah,
problem, right? But for me,
yeah,
it's more important to be a good friend, and if that means being a good friend from here and you're where you are, then I feel like that's perfectly okay.
yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I think that's one of the values. I don't know how to say this. Of like, what I
Don't
think
be
guys
scared,
can
bro.
be
Just say
quite
it.
good
Just
at
say it
this.
how you want, bro.
No, I think guys can be quite low maintenance in their friendships, which can actually lead to longer lasting friendships in the sense that not everything is a deal breaker,
Hmm.
and just that kind of understanding and just kind of understanding that everybody's living their own lives. I mean, I saw this, sometimes with maybe some girls in school
Yeah,
and stuff like that, just like kind of like this kind of a like need for like a friend to be like your everything and their everything. But in reality, bro, especially as time goes on and people get older, people are just living their own lives. They're
it's
dealing with
true.
their own stresses. They're dealing with things that are going on. And if you can have that like understanding that like you know you're always going to be there for that person, but there could be things going on, etc. And I think that's going to lead to a much more like long and like fruitful friendship than like needing the person to be what you want them to be, for example.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Especially during like transitional periods of people's life, which is
yeah.
like what most of people and our friends are in right now. We're in transitional periods. Some people are at uni, some people are at work, some people are doing different things. It's like everyone's kind of doing their thing.
And yeah, I agree with that. And it's not like I'm saying or it's not like we're saying, because we're arguing the same thing, that girls are innately worse than guys. But
No, that's not
the
what we're saying.
way that, especially in my experience, that friendships with girls and friendships between girls is is like, there have been times where I've explained to, so like for your party, for example, I was gonna come, but I couldn't get a hold. Well, I was thinking of coming, but I couldn't get a hold of you. And then I also was like, I maybe won't be able to make it anyway. And my friend was having a party on the same day. So I was saying to them, I was like, hey, I might not be able to come because I might be going to London, but I also might be able to come to yours. So then inevitably I went to theirs, right? And it wasn't like they didn't mean it in a mean way, because obviously they don't know our friendship. But a lot of the people that I
Yeah,
kind of explained the situation to were like, why are you all right with the fact that he didn't answer? And I'm like, for me, it's really not that bad, right? Your birthday comes every year, and I can just decide to come to London and meet you whenever I want, really, right? It's not the biggest deal in the
yeah,
world that on this occasion we couldn't communicate well enough to make it happen, right? But it kind of hit me that if I like whenever I had this conversation with guys, they were a bit like, oh well, you know, he's doing this, he's doing that, and I felt like I could resonate with that response so much more because that's exactly what I would say in the
yeah,
same situation, if that makes sense.
yeah. No, yeah, 100%, man. I mean, like, it also becomes just harder to just um. It does become harder to maintain just the more that like um people's lives start to like form in what they're doing and trying to like just maintain relations like just maintaining relationships comes
So
harder over
difficult. It's
time
just
and just
really
with life.
hard.
That's just
Yeah.
that's just life. That's just life. But obviously, I know that is an area of improvement that I can get, and I can say that I'm going to make sure. I'm saying this on the podcast here publicly. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be better with this. Um, and yeah, and I literally, bro, if I'd have known that you were trying to get a hold of me to put that, I would have been like, oh shit, like that was my bad. So I'm actually publicly apologizing
Yeah.
for that on right now. But but yeah, like that's again, that's an area where somebody else, like other people, probably excelling much better than myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and your followers would never know that that's something that you want to improve on. You
Exactly.
know, they just assume, oh, he's got everything perfect. And
Yeah.
I think, like in this situation, like it's very good, and I think it's the hallmark of a good friendship is that for me, it's not a deal breaker, and for me, I'm not like I don't hold anything against anybody that's in this situation because maybe I'm more understanding than some, or maybe like I just have different requirements for friendship,
Yeah.
but someone being busy and not being able to get back to me is okay, right? Somebody deciding that they don't want to talk to me, that's totally different, right? That's where it's like you're directly attacking like the basis of friendship. But like in this situation, like I don't even feel like, yeah, you apologize, whatever, but I don't feel like for me it's that necessary because we're fine. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I get you.
we're okay. And if it was the other way around, you'd also be understanding. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a courtesy apology, but it's not like a I've done something terrible to you kind of thing. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
No, yeah, 100. And I think but a lot of times it comes down to is that, again, like what you yourself are fine with. Like if I have messaged one of my friends and they don't get back to me, I'm just like, right, it's calm. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just it just it all depends. But I think yeah, having those like people and like I've seen like as more and more time goes on and like more people come into your life and I've ended up inevitably spending like more time with people that I'm like working with just because that's just like
Hmm.
that's just life, you know what I'm
That's
saying? You
how it
might
is.
yeah, you might
Yeah.
end up talking to people who are like say on your course or like on your basketball team a lot more because that you're literally doing stuff. But it's always important to like remember like who like has your best interests at heart as well and then make sure that you know you don't lose sight of that because it's like it's almost similar
Of
with
course.
like relationships like with girlfriend and stuff like that like you might have like obviously like with your girlfriend and then you know you could have random girls that you know might try XYZ
Hmm.
but just remembering that like that kind of stuff is going to be like transient and like not permanent and also not meaningful versus like stuff with your girlfriend is going to be what gives you almost meaning to life and etc is like important
Exactly.
for like being able to like say no and just like remember like you were saying your morals and stuff like that so that's like it's kind of a similar thing in that regard um you know just losing sight of the things that are important for like things that are more
Yeah.
temporary and more like short-term gratification
I
so
think
so yeah
yeah, especially like if you're in a relationship and like you can have that where you remember what's important, even like obviously on a fundamental level like that, knowing that like all these other girls that are trying whatnot, it's wrong and it's like you said, gonna pass and it's not permanent.
yeah
But then also on like a even more minute level, remembering the things that your partner finds valuable and then remembering
yeah
the things that you find valuable. Maybe it's like they really like it if you're home 5 minutes before they want to watch a show with you instead of getting in when the show starts. You know, those kind of little tiny things, right? Just remembering that if you have that together, then that's like the hallmark, like I said earlier, of a good friendship or a good relationship. Because let's say there was something about me that I really like found fundamental in friendships, and you didn't. If that kept clashing, we wouldn't be friends. Do you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't
Mm.
be like we just wouldn't be friends, right? But the things
Yeah.
that we do have like bits of miscommunication about are not deal breakers, and being able to recognize that they're not deal breakers, like responses to messages or doing stuff on time. Like how many times have we planned to do something and we literally do it like an hour later? Like the mukbang
Yeah.
video, for example, like we started
Yeah.
so late. Me and Luke didn't go home until much later than we, wanted or
Yeah.
had planned to. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
realizing that those things aren't deal breakers is fine, and then also realizing the things that your friends really hold valuable is also,
Yeah.
very
100%.
important.
100.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is what we at, like an hour 45 or hour 25. This has
I think
been
about that. It's been good,
this has
man.
been quite real, because my last episode I didn't write a plan. Normally I write like a little, like intro. This is a thing I maybe want to talk about, like maybe like one sentence, and then I let myself flow. And like today I
Yeah.
wrote one because I always kind of get nervous, even though like we have conversations like this all the time.
Yeah.
I kind of get nervous because I'm like, oh, I have a guest on. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Kind of, it has to be right.
Yeah.
So I
No,
wrote
I
like
get
this,
you.
not extensive, but like, I had questions and whatnot. And I think we covered everything, but not in the
Yeah.
order that I, you know,
Third
thought
plan.
that we would. And I think that sometimes that's actually better, because like my last episode, for example, I didn't write a plan, but I still spoke about everything that I wanted to in due time. And yeah, I feel like this has been a good episode,
I
and I
think it's been
think
really good. No, it's been really good.
the
I
people.
haven't. Yeah, I've never done one with somebody that I actually know. So I think this one, compared to probably ones I've done previously, uh, have like been able to get a more authentic side of myself out.
Mhm.
So I think it's been good, and I think I'd be up for doing this again, bro.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it would be good because, yeah, especially for, like your fans and whatnot, like we were talking about, a lot of them don't know everything about you. And lots of
Yeah,
them are interested in your life. Like, I know it's kind of weird for people to just be interested in what you're like as a person, but, they are.
yeah,
That's why YouTube and all of these social media things exist, because people are interested in other people. And I think they will get quite a good grasp of what you're like from this conversation, because it's somebody and you're able to be
yeah,
yourself. But yeah, I think we could definitely do it again, like especially like a group one. I know me and Luke spoke about doing a group one like we did on your YouTube
yeah,
video. I feel like that
yeah.
would be really fun. Talk about some different things, because obviously now I've introduced
That
you
would be
both.
good.
Like we don't
People
have to
know
do that
both.
again. We
Yeah,
could just talk about whatever we want. So
yeah. No, that sounds good, man.
yeah,
That sounds good. Yeah, thank you for having me on, and also it's been good to like seeing you having your platform and doing like things that something that you're passionate about in a way that is like good. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
because when like your friend starts something, but like you like just because your friend started, there's no guarantee that it's actually gonna be good. But then when your friend starts something and it's
yeah.
actually good, it's like yeah,
It's a
that's
nice
like
feeling,
it's
isn't
hard.
it? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's exactly how I felt when you started doing the YouTube. And because I remember back, because obviously like it wasn't like it is now, like you're doing hair videos and little like tiny bits and bobs,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
as much as we clowned you for some of the content, I always thought that it was cool that you were willing to put it out, and I was always happy that, oh well, like you're actually doing it and it's good for you. It's not like having any
yeah,
drawbacks in your life. So yeah, I do
yeah.
agree that it's nice to see your friends do that.
No, 100%, man, 100%.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's been real, and yeah, I hope we can do it sometime again. Maybe in like a group thing, or maybe just us again. But yeah, thank you for coming
100%,
on,
man.
and I'll let you sign off.
Thank you for having me, bro. Well, thank you guys for watching as well. Yeah, man, it's good to keep following Rulua, keep seeing the stuff that he's doing, and yeah, man, I'm sure there's gonna be plenty other good guests on. But yeah, bro, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'll leave all the links to your stuff, my stuff, and anything that I've spoken about in this in the description. But yeah, that is it. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Reasons Podcast. Make sure to tune into the next episode.